In 1909, a man named Gaston Leroux wrote a novel entitled The Fantôme de l'Opéra, most commonly referred to as The Phantom of the Opera. The novel was about a vengeful and murderous opera writer known as the Phantom, who lived in the catacombs beneath the Paris Opera House and worshipped young singer Christine Daae. The Phantom is hideously deformed, but tries to earn the love of Christine so she can be a part of his opera. The novel was published to lukewarm reaction, but gained immense fame after Andrew Lloyd Webber adapted the story into a multi-Tony-winning musical. In between 1909 and today, the film has been adapted in many ways, particularly in film. So today I'm going to be talking about the film adaptation of The Phantom of the Opera. No, not that one. Nope, not that one either. Bingo! Dwight H. Little's cinematic flop, The Phantom of the Opera. The film was released in 1989, 3 years after Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical debuted. This was also during the phase where slasher movies were still popular but starting to die off. So without a doubt, Little planned to cash in on the musical's success and the success of the slasher genre, which gives us a very bizarre and gory take on the tale. Let's take a look at The Phantom of the Opera. Now, I admit I haven't read Gaston Leroux's novel, but I have seen the musical, and from what I understand, the musical does a fair job of following the novel's basis. So I'm going to try and base my opinions off that. The biggest difference is the way the film's plot is set up. The film starts out with a girl named Christine Daae, played by Jill Schoelen, in modern-day New York, auditioning for a musical. She finds a strange piece of music by a man named Eric Dessler, aka the Phantom, and uses that for her audition. But while auditioning, a sandbag swings down and knocks her unconscious. She awakes in London in 1881, and that's when the film's plot really starts. So I guess the whole Phantom thing takes place in a previous life of Christine's? I don't know, but what I can say is that it's not explained well, and it is really confusing how Christine and the Phantom still have a bond through music in modern day. And I also know that the original story takes place in Paris, not London. I don't know why they made that switch. The Phantom is played by Robert Englund, who is without a doubt best known for his role as Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. In fact, the posters for this film play off the success of A Nightmare on Elm Street to get your attention. Now, in the adaptations I've heard, the Phantom's disfiguration either comes from a birth defect or from a fire. In this version, Eric's face becomes horribly burned when he sells his soul to the devil to make his music succeed. Okay, I've looked everywhere, and I cannot find any adaptation like that, except for this movie. So we have Robert Englund playing a psychopathic murderer whose face is horribly disfigured by a fire. If you don't think Freddy Krueger when you hear this, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. Now, to be fair, Englund does a good job in the role. It's just so distracting that his makeup and basic premise is almost exactly the same as Freddy. None of the actors really stood out to me, apart from Englund, of course, but I think it is worth mentioning that a young Bill Nighy plays an aide to the diva La Carlotta. But otherwise, most of the acting is bland or just stereotypical British nonsense. Also, they really underplayed the role of Christine's love interest. I mean, he's a key part to the plot, but yet he's barely used and doesn't do much when he's actually on camera. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a pretty gory movie. It goes straight for the shock and gross out value. We see prolonged close-up shots of the Phantom stitching peeling bits of skin onto his wounds, and bloody corpses skinned alive by the Phantom. There's a lot more blood in this movie than I think would ever be necessary for a Phantom adaptation. A lot of the dialogue is really overdramatic and sometimes campy, most of which is just the Phantom delivering menacing monologues. I love it. Well, that's just about all there is to say. It really isn't a horrible movie. I mean, it's got some good camera shots and it's got great atmosphere and music, but it's definitely far from good. Critics and audiences hated it, and I can understand why. A gore-soaked horror adaptation of Phantom wasn't a smart move at the height of the musical's popularity. The slasher craze was dying out, so no one really cared anymore. The only thing about this movie that actually made me angry, however, was the very last scene. It's one of those bullcrap scenes that everyone uses in slashers that's supposed to set up a potential sequel, but then never happens. It wasn't necessary, and it made no sense. In fact, the more I think about it, the whole finale of the film doesn't make any sense. But I don't want to spill anything too drastically. If you're a gore hound and you want some pretty cool blood effects and good makeup effects, I might recommend this for you. Or if you're even just a casual viewer wanting to kill an hour and a half, I might recommend this for you. But if you're a fan of the musical or original novel, this definitely isn't a good choice. But somewhere in the middle, this film is just okay. That is my diagnosis.